Okay, we're going to be going over today's video about how to close trial class people as a one-man band, like a solo gym owner. And look, I get it, current class, I completely understand where you're coming from. So in today's video, we're going to be going over a few key steps of what to do before the class, during the class, and after the class. We're going to keep it pretty high level, so there should be some actionable steps to take away from this, but without further ado, let's hop in. So one of the main things that we kind of run into and often hear martial arts school owners, quote unquote complaining about, you could say, with all due respect, is that, trials walk in, they get 30 seconds of your attention, but they feel lost on the mat, leave feeling unsure. They blame them for bad leads. It's actually really a process problem. And the fix isn't really working. What's required is building out a predictable system so that you have a way of funneling people in to the trial class. So we're going to be running through a bit of a step-by-step system. So it's always really important that, of course, you're making a touch point before the class to confirm that they're coming in. Now, obviously, if you're a client of ours, we do this on a done-for-you basis, right? But if you're not, or you want to make that extra personalized touch point as an owner coming from yourself, you can ask simple questions, open-ended, like what made you reach out today? Have you trained before, or is this new? Make sure they're aware to arrive 15 minutes early so that they're prepared. Oftentimes, even if you tell a lead to arrive 15 minutes early, they're oftentimes 15 minutes late and will therefore arrive on time. But at the same merit, people are human, they're going to arrive late. Unfortunately, we don't have a limousine service where, we pick the person up and then bring them to the gym and, give them a chauffeur on the way home. That would be fantastic. Maybe we should look into doing that. So yeah, just always, set expectations with people to tell them to come 15 minutes early. Make sure, they know where the address is, parking info, what to wear, all the basic stuff there. But again, if you're a client of ours watching this video as part of the sales training, we do this on a obviously done for you basis, so no need to stress there. So it's really important that in the 15-minute pre-class window, this is kind of where the pre-handling of objections comes into play. So the clients that we work with that do the best at this are the ones that make it really seamless, and they've got a kind of integrated process inside of their gym. So you want to make it as natural as possible, and that's the thing. So it's not a case of, it does work, handing them a pamphlet or a one-pager or something like that does work, but I'm trying to exaggerate the point here. Here is your 50-page essay on everything about our core values at our gym, and here are the memberships and everything. Okay, that may work if that's your sales process, right? But the point I'm trying to make there is that you want to keep things really simple, okay? Because simple scales, and it allows consistency and repetition in the same process and system. So this is where the trial actually gets sold, okay? It's the pre-handling, it's the initial point, it's that first impression that really matters. So what are we looking for here? Well, we want the tour of the gym, tour of the dojo. So if you've got changing rooms, show them where that is. Make them feel comfortable at the end of the day. The same way, you're bringing someone into your home for a home-cooked meal or something. You show them around, you show them, hey, bathroom's here, whatever it may be. Make them feel at home is the point I'm trying to get here. So changing room, where they can get some water, where the mats are, what it's about. So just make sure that they're aware of their surroundings so they're not feeling, intimidated or anything. I always harp on this point, but you often forget as a martial arts school that it can be quite intimidating for a first time someone coming in for a trial class. I always say this, I like to think I'm a very confident guy. I have no issue going and trying new things, doing new experiences. But, even myself, every time I go and do a trial class, there's always something in the back of my head that is it's a bit intimidating, right? It's a new experience, and martial arts, the discipline itself, regardless if you're doing a MMA session or a karate session or a BJJ session, there's always going to be a varying degree of intensity involved as well. So you got to think, is 5-year-old little Johnny, maybe he's really nervous and finds it hard making friends. Same merit if there's a 50-year-old dad come in, he may be a bit overweight and self-conscious. Again, you've got to be empathetic, very emotionally intelligent about who the person is, where they're potentially at. And at the end of the day, all of this is great going through this system, but the best thing to do is just connecting with the person, okay? If you can do that and deliver the exceptional service that we know you can, you're going to smash half of it. But this, again, more of a process of making sure you're ticking these boxes off, okay? So you're giving them a tour of the gym. What I would then do is really recommend, and this works really well, and I'm going to give a bit of a story after this, but introduce them to one of your senior students or someone that's really, make sure you introduce them by the name, they form a relationship there. So I'm going to give you a bit of a about one of the first martial art trial classes I did for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before I got into. I went to I won't say the gym's name, but I went into the gym and I was really nervous, I'm not going to lie. I'd never done Jiu-Jitsu before in my life and I didn't know what to expect either. I'd obviously seen a bit on Instagram, a bit on YouTube, UFC. Obviously, we work with a lot of martial art gyms, but I'd never done Jiu-Jitsu much. And walked in there and was pretty nervous, to be honest with you. And one of the things that really flipped the switch for me and made me feel comfortable and at ease right away was the head instructor there, the head coach, the gym, introduced me to someone that was similar to me in the sense of like young guy, active, looked like I could get along with him. And we instantly gelled, right? I felt at ease, I felt comfortable, and we got along well. He was actually a black belt and I was below a white belt, right? But, very charismatic. I felt like we were friends from the get-go, right? And I think that's one of the most important things. Again, being a gym owner or front desk or receptionist, whoever you are watching this video and implementing this process, just being personable at the end of the day is the highest leverage thing that you can do. It feels weird even terming it as high leverage, right? It's just at the end of the day, it's about community. It's about the impact that you have on people. Being personable, having good social characteristics is what's really going to drive this. So those are the two tips. They're probably the biggest one. But yeah, also take the time at the start to really understand like why they're there in the first place. So, tell them what do they want out of this? What are you looking for? There's probably a number of reasons why they've come there in the first place. There's either a pain or there's a desire. So it's important that you're kind of capitalizing and tailoring your pitch and system towards why they're there. So for example, you're not necessarily going to harp on the points if someone comes in that's overweight. That's probably their pain point. Or if they want to get fit, like that's their desire. You probably want to then tailor your pitch or tailor your questions or tailor the experience around that versus, if they're coming in wanting to get fit or lose weight, you wouldn't necessarily then, here we focus on just self-discipline. Yeah, you're not going to lose any weight. Like, tell them what they want to hear, because at the end of the day, that the martial arts form, whatever you do, is going to be able to achieve that desired outcome or alleviate them of that pain. So that's another just little sales nugget tip there, is like always get on the same page with what the client wants or needs and let them know what they want or need to hear, right? So like be agreeable is what I mean by there. So second last tip here, show where their stuff goes, where the bathroom is. Again, that's kind of like similar to the two of the gym situation there. And by doing all of this, it kind of eliminates 90% of the trial class anxiety. I know from personal experience it does, and I'm sure you can resonate as well. And, if you even ask your members at the start, what made you feel comfortable? That's honestly like a really good question to ask your long-lasting members, especially when building out this framework here. So I think it's really important. I actually got this idea from one of our clients, and it's about having jobs for your longer-lasting members that have a bit more culture, right? Now, if you're just starting out and you don't necessarily have these members, again, be heavily reliant on you, and that's just at the stage of business that you're at. As you begin to, at each new level, you are able to delegate more, and the longer that your gym's been around, likely the longer that you're going to have members around, and likely, therefore, more culture that you're probably going to have, for the most part. Regardless of that, it doesn't matter where you're at in the stage, whether you're at 0 members or 1,000 members, it's important to delegate roles. And obviously it's not necessarily like set roles where you get a name tag and all that, right? That's not what I mean by roles. It's more like, hey, we know that Johnny is like really good at building rapport with people. He's very charismatic. He's a bit of a lad. He's a bit of whatever, right? Let's make sure we pair him up with someone. Versus you may have a bit of an older member that's a bit more mature, a bit more calm with the situation. Well, you're going to probably pair them up with someone like that, right? So it's about pairing up with similar people. So that's the first step. And then what I'd go from there, which we've already kind of covered in this step here with a warm-up, the wrong side, introducing them to the one senior student. So that's that. Then having dedicated people to run the class. So as the owner, as a one-man band, which is what this video is for, it's important that you have your members or someone to be able to run some sort of warm-up. So it could be a simple stretching, it could be some drills, whatever it may be, right? Have someone running that so that you can then dedicate, whether you're helping the person sign the waiver, get the gi, whatever it may be, or even just helping them in the one-on-one warm-up so they feel comfortable. Then having like some sort of drill captain, again, that could be the same person, right? And then final thing is making sure, of course, you've got them buddied up throughout the class, okay? So, you may want to switch around who that person is, or if they're feeling comfortable with that person, they may want to do that. I also understand how it can be if you're a black belt, for example, constantly being paired with a white belt. That's why it's very dependent on the situation. So there's that there. So where do you spend your time as the owner, front desk person? Well, during the warm-up, you're at the door with the trial, doing the intake forms, getting them sorted with the gi, whatever that situation looks like for you and your gym. With the technique, just teach them normally, check on them every 5-10 minutes, how they're getting on. Chances are they probably feel a bit uncoordinated, a bit shy, so just reassure them that they're doing really well. Again, at the end of the day, it's about being. Have your drill captain, whether that's yourself, so that means that you get the 3 to 4 minute one-on-one with them during the warm-up and really show them like hey, I'm the owner, I'm going to show you the one-on-one thing here. That really goes a long way, right? Like you've got the authority figure as the owner and you frame yourself as that, hey, like the owner actually took 5 minutes to do the warm-up with me. And then this is the most important part. You've built the rapport, you've kind of pre-handled any objections. You're constantly like talking to the person, so you're finding out either their pain point or their desire. Then at the last 5 minutes of class, just pull them aside, okay? Let your high belts run and finish the class off. Like that's fine, okay? Also have the confidence that your members are going to want the best for you in the gym, and that you're actually giving them a bit of initiative, right, in the process by letting them run a bit of the class there, okay? Oftentimes people like the initiative, they like the leadership. So let your members, let your community step. This is the last 5 minutes where you're really pulling them aside and going like, hey, you absolutely smashed it, right? Like just really boost their ego, give them a bit of confidence boost as to why like they did really well. Hey, next lesson, like always dangle the carrot, you know, you did really well here, but next time what we're going to work on here. And like you can see how the progression, right? It's like almost like a gamification of it, right? So the number one mistake that I see with martial arts schools, and it disappoints me how many times I see this, is that they let people leave without sitting them down after. And I understand that, you know, a lot of times there's back-to-back classes, for example, let someone leave without at least having a conversation with them. Okay, and I understand there's going to be, you know, specific nuances to that where it does occur, but on the most part, like, you need to make sure that you have a system in place, which is what we're running through here. I'm showing you the system, okay? So you can take the action steps from this and implement it into your gym right away. I mean, we've worked with hundreds of martial arts schools, and the ones that do this are the ones that increase their closing rate. And a bit of a side tangent here, just to show you the power of implementing a system like this. If you can go from a 20-30% close rate to a 50-60%, for every trial that comes in, you've now pretty much doubled your conversion rate, which therefore means you've doubled your memberships. It's the simple things like this, like the membership sign-up rate, which has the highest impact on growing your martial arts school. So, point being, never let them leave without sitting down. So what does that look like? How did that feel? What did you like most? You know, and then when you're getting to the kind of, you know, the pitching point, it should feel really natural, right? Like the purpose of this video isn't to go through the sales, like watch the other sales videos that we have going through that. I go in way more detail there. This is more about a systemized approach to making sure that you've got a structured system in place. But again, show the 2 membership options, assume the close. There's a video on that specifically going through. So if you haven't watched that already, please go through and watch. And ask directly, like, don't dance around the fact that you assume that they're just going to come back. Like, you've got to be, to an extent, ruthless. And what I mean by that is not car salesman. Okay, that is a limiting belief. What you need to do, and you need to really understand this as a martial, is that you are doing them a disservice if they enjoyed the class, that is, okay? If they enjoyed the class, and you can see that they enjoyed the class, you were doing them a disservice by not getting them signed up. You were doing them a disservice by not getting them signed up. What do I mean by that? Well, you know the power and you know the value that is brought by transforming someone's life through physical activity, health and fitness, specifically martial arts. If you're letting that person walk out knowing that you could change their life, that's what I classify as a disservice to them. It's your job as an Nova gym in your local community to empower these people. So never get this limiting belief stuck in your head that you're being too pushy with the sale, okay? Now, obviously there's a fine line to that. I'm not saying sit here and be a car salesman, but I want you to find that line, if anything, okay? Again, separate videos that we cover that all in. Finally, just have everything ready to go. Like have your card reader, have your paperwork, have the intake form, have the membership, offer incentives on the sale. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward there. So what are your action steps before your next class to get this implemented? So you're going to pick 1 to 2 to 3 senior belts, and you're going to assign them permanent roles. Now, a little tip here, which is in an additional video, is potentially even providing some sort of commission to them, whether credit towards their membership, whether that's actually a financial, monetary, or you just, you know, you don't even need that incentive. I mean, it's always good to commission people. They're always going to, everyone likes a bit more money, right? It's just the way the world works. You can commission them on the sale, right? So if they do a really good job and help get signed up, and specifically as a one-man band, like we work with clients that do this. Again, another idea that I got from one of our clients on this system that they use and crush it with their sales. So you can see there's many different little aspects that you can take from it. Have like a little 1-page trial intake form ready to go. You know, maybe you want to laminate your card with a membership. It's always good to assume the close. And what I mean by that is like, don't go, you know, even if it's a follow-up, for example, it's a better situation to explain here. Don't go, hey, we'll see you next week. It's like, no, does Monday or Wednesday work better for you? Right? It's assuming the. Make sure you've got your follow-up systems in place. Again, separate video. Have a look at that where we go through all the follow-up, what you need to be doing after your class, making sure you're following up with text, email, and phone call. It's really important as the owner that comes from you as well with that phone call. And of course, block 15 minutes before the trial class and 10 minutes after where possible. And look, if you're really back-to-back schedules, maybe your class starts at 5, finishes at 6, and the next one starts at 6, just take 5 minutes out of that 5:55 p.m., whatever it may be, take that 5 minutes to run through that thing, okay? You're better to do that. Make sure they never leave without kind of going through that process there. So I hope you learned something through this video. Again, we've kept it very surface level with these things because there is a million things to go through. But I hope you can kind of see some of the main points that need to be done and some of the action items here. And again, the process is really simple at the end of the day. All right, you need to make sure that before they arrive, you have them called, you're asking the questions, make sure they know to come early because people are naturally going to come late. Make sure that you've given them the proper tour, you've given them the proper questions to ask to find out why they're there. You have assigned roles within your membership base. You're going through the class, you're congratulating them, you're making them feel good, you're giving them a bit of an ego boost, and then you've got a clear process after. It's as simple as that. You don't need to overcomplicate it. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our other ones, and I want to see some more sales coming through. Let's do it.